Another video, and today we will be doing sort of a brand overview video. So I will be today reviewing some of Louise cosmetics products that I got during last year's November-December time, and I will sort of go through their sort of November-December budget box that they came out with, and also there are some additional products included that I got on the same order because they were having a Black Friday sale. But let's get to the products themselves. And I will be, before going to the products themselves, I will be putting swatches. The swatches are from, if you have seen sort of the YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels that I did with these, the whole haul, then you have seen the swatch clips earlier, but I will sort of put the swatch clips separately at the end of sort of each section. My god, I'm sorry, I'm a bit, how should I say, I'm filming this on the 1st of January, so Happy New Year anyone who's watching. And yeah, I'm feeling a bit tired because we obviously stayed late at night watching fireworks and everything, so I'm a bit, maybe a bit hangover is the correct word, but yeah, the products themselves. So in the November-December budget box, so about the budget box, as I said, Louise their brand does it so that they bring out new products primarily in the budget box, and then they are sort of promoted as an inexpensive way. And if you are sort of live in the UK and you only pay the $35.95 plus, I believe the UK shipping is probably like very, I don't know, does she actually offer, the brand offers it like for free, or is it like only like £5 or something, like very expensive? And I think that if you're able to get the budget box only with the $35.95 base price plus and very inexpensive shipping, then at least based on the products that I got in the box, I'd say it's worth it. But if you're ordering this outside the UK, then I think you should maybe take see, are you able to like look at some sneak peeks that what are in the box, included in the box, and then make the decision that do you want to order them in a bundle, or would you rather wait and then order individual products. But within the November-December budget box, we had this huge eyeshadow palette, so if looks could chill. Then we had this was the lip palette, and I believe this was named Baby You've Got Me Smitten, and here what it looks like. And then we had the powder blush palette, but baby it's cold. Is it cold outside, or yeah, cold outside. And I'm gonna save the eye palette for the last, and let's go through perhaps the least favorite product. So the lip palette looks like this, and this is a product that I was the least fan of from all of the products in my order. And this is purely because, first of all, this kind of individual lip palette products, this is only something that I think a professional makeup artist would use, because obviously I can't put this into my purse, I can't like take this along, then I would need to like carry a separate lip brush with me. So unfortunately this just isn't convenient. The other reason why this was my least favorite product is that I didn't like I have a few of the lip products sort of mixed, so I mixed this shade and this shade together to get my lip color today. But generally the formula, it reminds me a lot of those. So if you ever got this sort of like inexpensive makeup boxes when you were sort of pre-teen that you were like sort of meant to be just the makeup to play around with, then this formula reminds me a lot of that kind of formula. So I wouldn't even recommend this for a professional makeup artist, because I felt that a lot of the formulas here, they were a bit on the, almost like a bit too moussey, though some of them, the colors, they sort of separated when I tried to put them on my lips, and I tried to apply them with fingers, with a couple of kind of lip brushes, and they were just very hard to use. And I was able to get the result on my lips today that I had by like really taking quite a lot of the products out of the pan into my sort of lip brush, and then I was able to get sort of this relatively even layer. But I just don't feel that the formula here, if this is something that you would think that, okay, well, not for a consumer, but for a makeup artist, I wouldn't even like, as a makeup artist, buy this. And the last reason why I'm not sort of a fan of this is that, unfortunately, and this is purely related to my skin tone, so these are for sort of, I would say, more suited for medium upwards skin tones, so medium tan and darker skin tones, and those who have especially a warmer undertone. I have a cool rosy undertone, so for me these don't suit my skin tone, and that's just something related to me, it's not like the palette's fault. I did try these as a cheek products, but again, because of my skin undertone, they are too warm tone for me. But actually, as a cream cheek products, I did find that these do work. So if you got this and your skin undertone is something that these colors will suit, then maybe try and see that if you could use this as sort of an cream cheek products, because for those, I felt that for those purposes this was actually quite good. But this is gonna be a palette that I will actually like declutter immediately after I have filmed this video, so this will not wait for the declutter video, because obviously like this is too big. I'm not gonna keep a palette this big on my drawers just to wait for the declutter video, because this won't even fit in my lip drawer, and I know that this is a product that I will not get use out of. So this was, how should I say, the only product that I really disliked from the box altogether. However, if you are able to make use of these colors, then this probably, like, because obviously you get a lot of variety of shades here, then this is obviously, I do think that this will add value to the box, but for me, this just isn't the product that I will be using, and that's why it's going to go straight to the trash once I'm done filming. Next, let's go to the cheek palette, and this was sort of an... I'm gonna say that I like this more than the eyeshadow palette, and then we will talk about the eyeshadow palette when we get to it. So this is the powder cheek palette, so this is blushes, and this has all these sort of like pink and lavender blushes that have been very trendy, and now we are sort of moving from the Barbie pink blushes to the lavender blushes. I think this spring I have already seen some like more higher end luxury brand bringing these lavender style colors, and the lavender style blush is something that has been very popular with K-beauty brands and other Asian beauty brands, so I'm not surprised that the Western brands are now like tagging into a trend, but I think this is a good quality. Did I need this, especially since in the Black Friday order there is another blush palette that will be included in this video later, but this is gonna be something that I will repeat when I talk from the eyeshadow palette. So I ordered the mystery box before I had seen the sneak peeks of it, and if I had seen the sneak peek imagery and videos, then I would not have put in for example, the blush palette that I will show later in this video, because I didn't know before I had completed the order, and I think it was like a week later when I started seeing the sneak peek videos that, okay, we're getting another blush palette in the mystery box. But that's on me, that's not on the brand, and that's obviously when you are buying any mystery box, then you necessarily like the idea of a mystery box sort of is that there's some type of surprise included in it. But the blush palette itself, these are tones that do suit me, because there's these sort of quite a lot of cool pink tones. I generally like the tones of these blushes, and there is actually a nice variety here. There are like lighter shades, mid-tone shades, and there are even a couple of darker shades. Something that I would say is that Louise, they do this really highly saturated sort of swatching images, and also in their website they're really like saturated colors. But these aren't actually in use, I found, as pigmented as perhaps the brands. So you should always consider when you see brands doing swatch images or swatch videos that they will try to make the product look the best as they can, because obviously their task is to sell the product as much as the products as they can. So these colors looks much more saturated, but you can actually build a sort of lighter layer, but you are able to get these look very pigmented. You don't need super lot of building with this one, so don't use a super heavy hand, but if you want a lighter layer, it is definitely like possible with this one. But yeah, a product like, I didn't need a blush palette this size. I'm like now with this one and the other blush palette that I will show later, I am good for blush like for the next, well, basically rest of my life, because you've obviously seen on my last declutter video that was filmed in October how much I have blushes, and now I have like 2 big palettes. But this was a product that I liked a lot and felt that this was like worth ordering the mystery box. Let's get to the eyeshadow palette, and I had the sort of showing my favorite winter eyeshadow palettes. I actually have that video up before this, so you have seen this palette on my channel already, and you have seen, like, obviously I am wearing the palette that we're gonna talk about today, because I have this sort of very teal blue eyeshadow look today, which is not something I usually go for, and this is something we will be discussing soon. But and I have filmed quite many Instagram reels or YouTube shorts with this one. So the palette is called if looks could chill, and I'm not gonna be holding this up whole time because this is just, it's too heavy. And this is one of the, what P. Louise I think is very known for, is that they have these two-tiered palettes that have this lower layer and then this upper layer. And there was some, I think not, well, a little bit of controversy related to this, because this came out when they started sneak peeking this, the brand had just came out with the Michaela collaboration, and the Michaela palette was already quite blue heavy. So there was some sort of not so nice things on internet said about this, that was it very nice of the brand that if the brand recently came out with a collab palette that had similar colors, then come out with a separate palette. But yeah, I'm not usually, I try to like, don't really follow all the internet drama, but that's I think something that was just something interesting that sort of was happening around when the sneak peeks of the budget box started surfacing. But yeah, so this is obviously a blue teal heavy palette, and we all know that blues, especially in this brightness, aren't my number one colors to work with. And I will hold my opinion about still that this palette hasn't changed my opinion. Is this unnecessarily bulky? Yes, so the palette is like huge. I still haven't figured out how I'm gonna store this in my eyeshadow palette drawer. And something I will give critique for, I'm gonna sort of bring this close to them, hope my camera will focus. So my box, or it's already like falling apart. And this is not something that has happened like recently. It was already like, I think, few days after I have unpacked these and I started like trying out this palette, that I noticed that the sort of cover was already coming off. I can get this attached again with a glue, but I feel that I shouldn't really have to like, in a couple of days of getting a palette, I shouldn't have to start like fixing it immediately. So that's a bit of a critique, considering how heavy and robust this is like altogether as a palette. I'd say that, and this goes, I think, a lot of these two-tiered palettes that P. Louise does, that this could have been halved. I actually do like the sort of deviation, so I like the sort of like, there is like good bright blue and dark blue shades in here, and there are good minty teal shades in this tier. But they could have like halved this so that they would only have like this one layer, which would have like some of the teal shades combined with the darker blue and brighter blue shades on the upper tier. So yeah, so this is just like many of these two-tiered palettes, it is like unnecessary big in terms of color story, and they could have like done away half with the colors and you would still get very similar looks, because I have felt that I have now done, I think, 4 or 5 looks, and I have really tried to make an effort to use as many of the shades as possible, and I'm now like, I think it was after the 3rd look that I was already feeling that I am getting very similar looks, even though I am using technically different shades from each of the tier. So yeah, obviously because of the color story, but again, the color story thing is also on me because I made the order without knowing what I was going to get, and that was also a conscious risk of knowing that, well, it was sort of a mystery box type of thing, so there is always the risk with mystery boxes that you get something that it's not your preferences. Now regarding, I'd say, for the quality, considering like, and this will apply also to the second eyeshadow palette that I will have in this video, is that I think the P. Louise sort of falls in the middle. So these sort of, the two-tiered palettes, these big ones, individually these cost around 40 and 50 euros, I think, on the website if you buy some of these like individually. And I'd say that they do fall very in the middle in terms of the formula. The formula is, I'm gonna make now comparison the Cosmic Brushes, or Cosmic Beauty as the UK brand is now known, because Cosmic Brushes has my sort of favorite formula from this sort of very heavily pigmented, colorful like eyeshadows from all of like indie eyeshadow brands. So, for example, compared to that formula, I do feel that you have to build it a little bit more. That's not necessarily bad if you're, for example, considering that you're working with this sort of very like these sort of blue and teal, dark blue and teal shades, these are usually considered like hard to formulate and hard to work with. So the buildability itself, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I did feel that, especially now that today in my look I tried to combine sort of the teal side and the blue side, you can layer them together and they don't get muddy or you don't get like patchy results. Something that I didn't notice was that, for example, with the lighter shades, for example, the upper tier has this sort of very lightish purple shade up here, and also this sort of lighter blue shade here, and also in the lower layer there's this sort of minty light shade here. And this is something that I also noticed in the second palette, which has also, it's a more neutral one, but has a few of these lighter shades, was that with those ones I actually did have some difficulties. So with those ones I was actually surprised that you really did have to build them quite a lot, and I even had some skipping with them. So as someone, I'm already a person in my 30s, so there is also I have some textures on my skin and also around some of my eye area. And I had sort of skipping that I haven't come across, let's just say, in recent years, in maybe like only 1 or 2 palettes, and generally in those palettes there were like other quality issues. So that was perhaps something a bit surprising, was that with the sort of lighter matte shade there was this sort of skipping in area, that there was textures and that you actually did have to build quite a lot with them. With the mid-tone and dark shades I didn't feel that there were issues, and I will say, which is really very positive for the P. Louise formula, is that, for example, the dark shades, those you will be able to build them up to show as dark as they are in the pan, but there is still like you are able to blend them and they don't, like, for example, stick to one place and then you can't blend them at all. The shimmer shades, I say that they are quite basic formulas. I can do some actually with the shimmers. I can do a few swatches. So let's see, and here. So there are like few in both of the upper and in the lower tier, there are like few of these like shimmers that do have a bit duochroness in them, but if you are considering that there are like other indie brands at the similar price that have this sort of very shifty, there are even multi-chromes, and then compared to these, the shimmers are, as you can probably see, very good quality. They show up very nicely on the lid and they do last. Like I haven't had any creasing issues, for example, with the P. Louise formula, but it's not, you will not get this sort of like super duochromy or multi-chromy shades from this brand. It's more this sort of a traditional shimmers, and I do say that some of the, for example, the darker shimmers in the blue palette, for example, are more on the satiny side rather than on the sparkly side. But altogether I would say that with this one, like, if you really want a blue palette that has all the blues plus teals that you would ever want, then I would say that this isn't a bad palette to start from, and especially if P. Louise is a brand that's easily available to you, because this isn't like the most expensive, but it's also not, because individually, like I said, these go around somewhere around the €50 mark. So this isn't like the sort of least expensive brand ever, but I think that with the price there comes a certain guarantee that generally the quality is quite consistent. As I said, with the lighter matte shades, and this is an experience I had with the more neutral palette, we will see later, with those one you have to be prepared that even though, for example, I'm a person who uses an eyeshadow base, that even with an eyeshadow base you have to build them quite a lot and there can be some issues depending on the shade. But with the mid-tone and darker shades I do say that this is quite alright for the price. And obviously, like, for the €50 you are getting quite a lot of shades, so I think that if this would be like only half of the color story, which it could be, then I'd say that this would be like around 30 and 40 euros. I would say that, yeah, it's worth it for the formula you're getting. But with the €50, with the amount of shades, even though they are kind of repetitive, some of them, I'd say that it is a decent price for what it is. But just be aware, this is like these are very difficult to store, so make sure you have a storage to put these if you're considering buying these bigger eyeshadow palettes from the brand. But yeah, that was the last palette from the budget box, and as, how should I say, My sort of conclusion, like about the budget box, as I said, that if I would order the box individually and I can't take the more, like for example to my country, I have to choose the more expensive shipping. There aren't any other shipping rate options. If I would have ordered like individual products, I could have chosen the more inexpensive shipping. But with the budget box, there is like you are forced to take the more expensive one, at least when I'm ordering. And then if I have to consider the value added tax, which approximately, if I would only order the budget box, adds around bit 10 plus euros to the sort of price. So if I would have ordered the budget box individually, the price together with the shipping and the value added tax that I have to pay when importing it, I think I would have come around somewhere around 60 euros. So would the budget box be worth for me at a 60 euro plus price? I say that, for example, November, December box products, even though one of them wasn't a favorite, but then I have to consider that that's again the price of mystery boxes. But if purely from a value point of view, I do say that there is value enough for even if I would have only paid for the budget box, and then the end price would have been somewhere around 60 euros. But with the budget boxes, there is variation of what you get each month. So I would, with the budget box, think first go and see the sneak peeks that the brand showcases on social media. So they do this budget box reel, I think, almost every month before the box start shipping out, and then make the consideration that do you want to order them bundled or do you want to wait for the brand to release some products individually, because I do think that it is quite dependent on the box. And obviously because this was the box that arrived before Christmas, then I think that is why this was sort of even more amped up maybe compared to some of the other boxes that the brand will come out with in other times of the year. But yeah. So now for the other products. So for the other products, I ordered the cream bronzer that they have, and we will start with actually this one because this is, again, let's go from the least favorite to favorite. So this biggest issue was the formula is alright, but they really need to get better pictures of these on the website. So unfortunately with this one, because like I said with the budget box blush palette, because they use such a saturated photos, this looks much darker on the website, and I thought that, well, because I'm a fair skin tone, then I'm usually the lightest contour and bronzer shade, and this is like actually my foundation color. It's too yellow tone for me to use. I am using this as a foundation right now, but I have mixed in my concealer because this is a bit too yellow tone. So that's sort of my critique for this one. I did try to apply this to my sort of my cheek area to see that just generally how the formula, that if I would use this as a cream contour, which it should be, then how it would look like. And as a formulation, it's okay, and as you can see it, as my foundation, it's a decent job. It's not definitely something that I would go ordering itself as a foundation, because it is a bit too sort of, it does cling to some of the dry patches, which I don't think show now on the camera because the camera is a bit more far away, but if I would go very close, you would see that it has stuck here and here to areas that I do have some dryness in. But as a complexion product, this works, but they should really get better pictures of it on the website. And it's not enough, the brand has swatch videos of this on their Instagram page, and I do believe TikTok is the main social media the brand does. But a person, you shouldn't have to be, as a customer, you shouldn't have to go through this sort of big social media feed that has also other content to find swatches, real life swatches for specific products. So I would hope that they would put those swatch videos to their sort of to the product page, so people would actually get a good impression what the shade actually looks like. So that's sort of negative that I will say about this product, and that's on the brand. But as a complexion product, this does work, and I have now, because I was able to sort of dig out and find this video swatches of the cream bronzer, I do actually know now which shade I should probably order in the future. And if I at some point will make an additional order, then I would really like to try this as a cream bronzer. But for now I can't give sort of conclusive review of is this like the best cream bronzer ever, or is this like somewhere in the middle. But as a complexion product, it like generally like works, obviously, because you can see that it is also not like the worst foundation, for example, foundation type products I have tried. But yeah, that was sort of like disappointed, but I will be able to use this as a foundation because it's like close enough, and with powder and concealer I'm able to shade match this quite well to my skin, but not exactly like the best product from the bunch. Then let's go to the so as I said, there was I got 2 blush palettes, and without knowing that I was getting 2 blush palettes, but this was the one that I knew I was ordering. So this was sort of their was this their like sort of November collection. So in November they sort of had this release where they had this sort of butterfly themed stuff. There were these like colorful small eyeshadow palettes, and then they had 3 variation of this blush palettes from. And so unlike the palette that came in the mystery box, this has cream products and then this has powder products. So I'm not gonna try and so the mirror will not reflect, but generally like the upper 2 rows are creams, and then the lower ones are blushes. And I'd say that this is like a good, if you're looking for good blush sort of palette that has creams and powders, then you can't go wrong with this one. Is it like the most like spectacular cream or powder blush formula that I have ever tried? Definitely no. But I think for the price and the variety you're getting in these, and if the Louise is the type of brand that you want to order from, then you can't really go wrong with this one. And I did find the sort of formula consistency from the powder blushes compared to this one, and compared to the blush palette that came with the mystery box, I think the formula was quite similar, so there isn't like formula indiscrepancies between the 2. The cream blushes are a bit more like from the sheer side, and I do know that they do have cream blushes also in the similar tube formula that I showed that the cream bronzer is from. And because I didn't buy any of the cream blushes in the tube format, then I can't really compare them right now, but these are more, I'd say, on the buildable side, and it did, for example, show in the swatches that I did that the swatches actually from these cream blushes up here did look quite sheer, but actually when you pack them onto your brush, then you are able to get quite a lot of pigment out of them. However, because this is a more sheer cream blush formula, I would actually recommend using a dense blush brush and not to use sponge with this one, because I do believe that with the sponge these will just sheer out and you might not get the payoff you want unless you really want a more buildable blush formula. But yeah, I think that's all what I had to say about the blush palette. So I think it's a good, decent value for money if these are the kind of blush sort of if these are the sort of blushes that you're looking for. And they did have like 3 variety of this, so there is the sort of like very pink toned one, which I'm very glad that I didn't get, because then I would have had doubles with the sort of blush palette that I got in the mystery box or in the budget box. And then there's like an orangey version of this too. Then for the last product, which is this one, so this is because I wanted to also try a more neutral eyeshadow palette, and I'm actually quite happy that I did get a smaller palette, because I was sort of like guessing when ordering the budget box that there could be an eyeshadow palette included in that one, but I wanted to also try something smaller and something that I at least knew what I was getting. So this is the Falling in Love palette, and I think this was their sort of Valentine's palette from this year that they have come out in the sort of Valentine's Day budget box, and then they have put it individually on their website. And this was $9.95 at the Black Friday sale price, but I believe the normal price of this was $24.95 or something like that. And this is how the palette looks like. So this is, I'd say, very typical sort of neutral palette with some peaches and pinks. And I say that the formula is very consistent across, like with this one and the blue one. Just like I said with the If Looks Could Chill palette, these more of lighter shades. So this means the peachier shade here and the lighter brown here, and even this sort of lighter pink shade here. Similarly, as I had issue with the lighter shades in the If Looks Could Chill palette, was that with those one I did feel that you have to build them up a bit more. And perhaps the surprising thing was that indeed, even with this sort of neutral brown, because these neutral browns are usually much easier to formulate, so considering that Louise is a brand that really advertises is that they offer these very highly pigmented products, that was perhaps a bit surprising. But the darker shades and the mid-tone shades in this one, they actually do work as consistently as the sort of blue shades in the Looks Good Chill palette. And just as with the shimmers, similarly, you aren't gonna get like these super multi-chromey shades, but there is the peachy shimmer here and this pink shimmer here. They do have a bit of a duochrome shift to them, but nothing like super shifty. Is this gonna be a palette that in the long run is gonna stay in my collection? Sorry, I kicked my camera, so if the image is gonna be shaky, then sorry about that. But yeah, getting back to the palette, like, is this gonna be a palette that will stay in my collection for a long time? Probably not, but I will for now, like, will keep it because it is the only neutral palette I have from the brand, and I do think that at least compared to the blue palette, this is much more like I am able to actually store this somehow. The blue palette is something that I'm still going to be figuring out soon how I will fit it. But yeah, those were sort of all the products now, and we will now get to the sort of final conclusions that I have about this sort of collective haul and brand review. So, what do I now think, having tried quite the variety? So obviously I think the most weakest point here was the lip products, and because my only like experience now from the brand is the big lip palette, which wasn't obviously a favorite. They do have some lip kits on their website, and they do have lip glosses, so I think I will make, like now when we're in the year 2024, I think this year I will be making another order some point, not immediately. The brand I do think that I will say like immediately that the quality wasn't so wowing that I'm now like looking forward to that I must now order everything the brand does, and that I have to get the next mystery box. So it didn't wow me in that kind of way, but it is a brand that I do think that there are some very good products within the line that are, I think, for the price point compared to other products at similar price points, very, very good and very functional. And it is a brand that I will try a bit more from the future, but not a brand I will collect. And this is like primarily related to their packaging. So the packaging, they sort of have like generally this packaging style. So this obviously like is geared towards maybe not someone in my age brackets. Now I'm not saying that if you're, for example, over 30 or 40 or 50 that you would have to like stick in some sort of like a certain packaging style, but the packaging is definitely made to appeal more to like teenagers and maybe like very these sort of young adults who are like getting into makeup. And the brands, I think that also tells quite a lot, because the brand's main sort of marketing channel is TikTok. I have understood watching from some other influencer videos that TikTok is like very like a place that there are creators, for example, that do like they don't really do Louise content to a YouTube channel, but then they do it on TikTok because the brand is so successful in the platform, and because we know that TikTok users, a majority of them are more younger, than that's probably who the brand is catering to, and thus also the packaging I think reflects that quite well. But like, is this, I'm gonna at the same time say that yeah, it's perhaps a bit teenage-like, but is it like very cute? Yes. And the only downside is that I do think that there is quite a lot that they could scale down. For example, if we're considering the blushes, like they are all very nice shades, but these shades could still be a bit smaller, and they could have maybe deeper pans, and we would still get the same amount of products, but they could like fit it into much smaller format, because I do think that this already is like, yeah, it's a bit big, and I'm not sure how I feel about the double doors, but like we still have multiple shades of here, but this is already like, I'd say, a more manageable, like this is already quite close to a blush palette that I have from like sort of other blush or face palettes that I have from sort of other brands. So I do think that they could like still keep the cutesy packaging and still like scale down the packaging and make it more storageable, but that's just a individual preference, and I do know that there are still quite a lot of consumers, obviously because the brand is doing very well, then obviously there is a market there that doesn't mind the packaging and thinks it's very, very good and appealing to them. But regarding the brand's quality, I will have to give them credit that I think the products were like all very consistent, and it was actually quite good. Like as I said, the lip products I can't like say comparison that was now the lip palette sort of reflection from the lip products as a whole. So that is something that I will have to test in the future. But as I said, the sort of cheek products were they're comparable with each other. The eyeshadow palettes, even though there was this sort of very like blue sort of traditionally thought that quite difficult to formulate pigments, and then we had this sort of very traditional neutral palette with a bit of pink and peach, and the formulas were still quite consistent, and I didn't have like aside from the very light shades, I was able to make them very work, and at least with my sort of eyeshadow preferences. And the shimmers, again, not something super multi-chromey, but very like still good consistent shimmers that do give a nice shine. So yeah, I will give them credit that the formulas are quite consistent. Like, as I said, I would wish that especially with the complexion products, like with their cream bronzers, I do think that also with their cream sort of blushes, it would be good that they would actually have like the swatch videos that at least give us somehow a bit better impression on how the colors look in real life, even though the videos also, if you like watch Louise's swatch videos, those are obviously also very saturated, but at least because there is sort of a human, at least a real human hand there, that for example they are the shades are swatch against, so you do get at least a bit more better impression how the shades sort of compare with each other, because I don't think that the images they have on their website, those really with the complexion products aren't the best for making the evaluation when you're ordering online. But yeah, I think that was sort of my conclusions about these sort of products, and we will see. I will be keeping my eye on the brand and see what they will come out in the future, but I think for now the budget box, unless there is something like very super special, the budget box for now is something that I will not be ordering in the future, but I will rather wait and see for the individual products and then make an order, choosing individual products that I want to try, rather than buying the box and then maybe getting some products that I do like and some products that I don't. And because the shipping is quite expensive, it also makes more sense to then make a bigger order rather than buying sort of individual items. But yeah, I think that was all for today, and I hope you're having a good beginning of the year, and I hope I will be seeing you in my channel again soon. If you liked the video, then press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to get notifications, then ring the bell button. I hope you're having a good day wherever you are at, and I hope I will see you again soon. Bye bye!